everyone, my name is Carrie Honeywood. I am a current maternal and mental community health worker, very new. I have this picture of my beautiful adult daughter. I wanted to share my experience as literally seeing my vibrant 21-year-old that initially started with just a tickle in the throat, a basic cold, that went from a cold to the ER to the ICU. And this is very much relative to the MMCHW community check that we will be discussing today regarding the epidemiologic issue regarding increased vaping among teens and young adults in low-income, underserved communities in Illinois. Now, again, my vibrant 21-year-old, beautiful young lady, very outgoing. She's also in child care. She's a teacher. And of course, dealing with younger children, regardless if your immune system is as tight as Fort Knox, some things you can still get sick. So my daughter, she initially got sick. Seems like it was just a basic cold, coughing, cold, sneezing, small things. She ended up going to the emergency room because it became so intense that she was unable to breathe. She was literally taking shallow breaths. And my daughter has not been diagnosed with asthma or bronchitis, so it was definitely a shock to me to see that she was really having all of this, going on, and this tightness and this unable to breathe. Of course, we've taken various tests, COVID test negative, all those other respiratory viruses, things like that, negative. Blood cells, white and red count was good. It was just more so what started off as wheezing. And that landed her in the ER. We went from wheezing to having to have a cardiothoracic surgeon in the room, and my daughter being transferred from a bed in the ER to the ICU at Christ. My daughter has not been diagnosed with asthma or bronchitis, but after just like various tests and x-rays and the probability of them explaining to me that she may have a collapsed lung and all of this, talking about a tracheal tube to putting a syringe in her chest. I was her advocate, and I was not allowing them to do anything to my child without me and her being filled in and spoken to without the medical jargon, although I understood she didn't. So that alone was the scariest that I have ever went through, because in a matter of 24 hours, my daughter's health has literally changed. So back to the reason of why I mentioned that we're going to be speaking upon the increased vaping amongst teens and young adults. My daughter, she vapes. Of course, after speaking with the physicians and so forth about vaping and about the effects that can be going on with, in fact, her lungs, let's just say for sure that vape was destroyed and gone. And we're moving forward, of course, with letting all of that go changing the whole dynamic. But that was a really rough and tough space to be in, especially when it's your child. So let's get back into the background that I was speaking about regarding this epidemiologic issue. So, in the recent years, there has been a significant increase in vaping among teens and young adults, particularly in low income, underserved communities in Illinois. Vaping, the act of inhaling vapor produced by an electronic cigarette or similar device, has been glamorized by celebrities, social media influencers, making it appealing to young people. You see, this trend raises serious public health concerns due to the negative impact on lung health and the lack of adequate resources to help young individuals quit vaping. Okay, so let's go ahead. Like I mentioned, we're going to definitely dig in here. So let's talk about and categorize the problem. So, as I mentioned, the people that are most affected, the primary individuals affected by increased vaping rates are teens and young adults aged 15 to 22 years of age. And of course, my daughter definitely falls into that range. Not just her, but my other younger daughters as well. Although she's the only one that I know vapes, this is a lesson to be taught with all of them. So, within this demographic, those living in low-income, underserved communities are disproportionately impacted. See, these populations often have less access to education about the dangers of vaping and very fewer resources to help quit. Moreover, the glamorization of vaping by celebrities, your favorite celebrity, and influencers on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, even Facebook, and others has made it trendy among these age groups, further driving its adoption. There are notable geographic disparities in vaping rates. In Illinois alone, urban and rural areas with higher poverty rates and limited access to healthcare services are more heavily affected. Now, see, within these communities, there are fewer restrictions on the sale of vaping products to minors, and these products are more readily available in local convenience stores and gas stations. So additionally, these areas may lack community programs or campaigns to raise awareness about the dangers of vaping. Now, definitely things change over time, and different things, I guess, are important as the time changes. See, the rise in vaping among teens and young adults has been particularly rapid over the past 5 years. We're in 2024. Again, the past 5 years. This surge coincides with the increased marketing of flavored e-cigarettes and the portrayal of vaping as a safer alternative to smoking. However, data from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, indicates that in 2022 alone, over 20% of high school students nationwide reported using e-cigarettes, a significant increase from previous years. And see, this trend suggests a growing public health challenge, especially in vulnerable communities. Now let's talk about the underlying factors. And see, several of these social detriments of health are influencing the increased vaping rates among teens and young adults in these communities. Starting off with the lack of education awareness. I just spoke about this. There is a significant gap in education regarding the health risk of vaping. Many young people are unaware of the potential addiction, lung damage, and other health issues associated with vaping. See, the portrayal of vaping as a cool activity further diminishes the perceived risk. Now, then let's go ahead and talk about the marketing and accessibility. Now, vaping products are often marketed as trendy accessories, especially with flavors that appeal to the younger audiences. You know, that wild watermelon, that smooth, sour strawberry, or those other, flavors, right? See, the lack of regulation and oversight in these communities means that these products are more accessible even to minors. So let's go ahead and speak about the socioeconomic status. Did you know that low-income communities often face higher levels of stress and fewer recreational opportunities, making vaping an appealing way for younger people to cope with stress or boredom? Now, how many of us, if you have teens and we worry about peer pressure when your child initially says that they're bored? Just imagine them being outside and trying to keep up with the Joneses and trying each and everything, whether if it's something good or bad. See, additionally, the economic changes in these communities may limit access to healthcare resources or programs designed to help individuals quit vaping. Now, let's talk about the normalization and peer influence just mentioned. See, social media and celebrity endorsements have played a significant role in normalizing vaping among youth. When celebrities or popular influencers vape on camera, it sends a message that this behavior is both acceptable and desirable. So I'm going to leave this because I got way more to say about this, but just for this portion, I'm going to leave with this. The increased vaping rates among teens and young adults in low-income and underserved communities in Illinois alone is a growing public health concern. This trend is driven by a combination of glamorization by celebrities, easy access to vaping products, and a lack of education about the risk involved. Addressing this issue will require targeted public health campaigns, increased regulations of vaping product sales, and improved access to resources to help young people quit. Moreover, understanding the social detriments of health that contribute to this behavior is crucial in developing effective prevention and intervention strategies. Now, the reason I actually got into to this particular area when it came to the vaping is what I've just experienced with my own adult daughter, and it hit home so hard. I said that I also want to participate in any ways that I can to get the message out regarding the vaping usage, within young adults, teens and young adults. So when I had to create this was supposed to be created from the heart, describing something that may have plagued me or my family in the public health genre per se. So this is the reason why I went ahead and I talked about this epidemiologic issue when it comes to vaping. But there's more, because although we talk about it, what are the health risks associated with vaping, right? Nicotine addiction. See, vaping devices, especially e-cigarettes, often contain nicotine, a highly addictive substance. And as you know, according to the CDC, 99% of e-cigarettes sold in the United States contain nicotine, and many contain levels similar to or higher than regular cigarettes. Nicotine addiction can lead to increased usage, difficulty in quitting, particularly among adolescents whose brains are still developing. And then let's talk about youth nicotine exposure, which can disrupt brain development, which continues into the mid-20s and can have long-term effects on cognitive dysfunction or cognitive function, attention, learning, and memory, causing a dysfunction. The National Institute on Drug Abuse, this is the NIDA, notes that teens who vape are more likely to start smoking cigarettes in the future. I know that you're probably saying, not your baby. Hell, I've said the same thing. But it can happen. Now let's move on to number 2, respiratory issues, right? Same thing that my daughter was experiencing. My apologies. Again, let's talk about respiratory problems. One second. Yeah, I wanted to make sure that I keep this picture on because this is from the heart, and the basic focal point of the outrage today. All of this will be discussed in the MMCHW chat, community chat, although it doesn't really, it doesn't really go with when they talk about mother and maternal health. But when we talk about community health workers in general, me being a mom, this is my baby, and there's other babies out there that's being affected, regardless if they're newborn, 15, or 21, right? Now, let's get back into respiratory problems. Vaping has been associated with severe lung injuries, sometimes referred to as e-cigarette or vaping use associated lung injury, which is EVALI, EVALI. As of February of 2020, the CDC reported over 2,800 cases of EVALI, which is e-cigarette or vaping use associated lung injury, and 68 deaths in the United States, which many involved young adults. See, vaping can cause symptoms such as coughing, wheezing, shortness of breath, chest pain. See, according to the American Lung Association, the inhalation of harmful chemicals found in vape liquids, all of those volatile organic compounds, heavy metals like lead, diacetyl, can lead to inflammation and damage to lung tissue. Okay, let's talk about the cardiovascular risk, which kind of gets into why the cardiothoracic surgeon, and we ended up in the ICU. See, research suggests that vaping may have adverse effects on heart health. Studies have shown that nicotine and other chemicals in e-cigarettes can cause increased blood pressure, heart rate, and arterial stiffness, all of which are risk factors for heart disease. See, a study published in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that exposure to e-cigarettes aerosol can cause oxidative stress and endothelial dysfunction, which are precursors to cardiovascular disease. Let's talk about the exposure to toxic chemicals. See, vape liquids can contain harmful substances, such as we know formaldehyde, which are known to be toxic or carcinogenic. See, these chemicals can cause irritations to the airways and increase the risk of developing chronic respiratory conditions such as asthma and bronchitis. See, in the mention in the beginning of the story when I talked about my daughter, we have never had a diagnosis stating that she was asthmatic, that she has bronchitis, or any type of chronic respiratory condition. My daughter was just recently released from the, well, first, of course, she went from ICU after a few days there to step down as she got better. From step down to us leaving to now she has an inhaler and has to take a breathing treatment. Still has not been diagnosed with asthma or bronchitis, but now her case of this will be treated as if that she is an asthmatic. Strange. But okay, because they saved my baby. The CDC and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, has identified several cases where contaminated or counterfeit vape products contain harmful substances such as vitamin E acetate, which has been known to be linked to lung injury. Now, let's get on to the mental health portion. See? Told you we were getting there. So mental health and behavioral issues when it comes to vaping has been associated with mental health issue among adolescents. Studies indicate a correlation between nicotine addiction and increased levels of anxiety, depression, and impulsivity. Oh my God, these words today. The CDC reports that teens who vape are more likely to exhibit symptoms of depression and have a higher risk of developing substance use disorders. There is also evidence that vaping can alter brain development in young users, potentially leading to issues with attention, focus, and impulse control. Right? Now let's talk about as far as the poisoning and burns. Now, accidental ingestion of vape liquids can result in nicotine poisoning, especially in young adults who might be exposed to improperly stored vaping products. According to the American Association of Poison Control Centers, the AAPCC, there have been thousands of reported cases of nicotine poisoning from e-liquids, with symptoms ranging from nausea and vomiting to seizures and death. It's crazy to have found this out and for something horrible to have happened in order for me to actually find some of this information out. I did not know anything about these cases of nicotine poisoning from e-liquids and really, getting into that. Didn't have a clue. So again, here let's talk about 2 explosions and burns from malfunctioning vape devices, which has also been reported. The FDA has documented incidents of vape pens or batteries overheating and exploding, causing severe injuries, burns, and even death. In some cases, of course. Now, the health risks associated with vaping are significant, particularly for teens and young adults. The addictive nature of nicotine, the potential for lung injury, the exposure to toxic chemicals, and the impact on mental health are all critical concerns. See, addressing these risks require comprehensive public health strategies, increased regulation of e-cigarette products, and enhanced education and prevention efforts targeting youth, especially in our underserved communities where resource and awareness are limited, which is the reason why that I said that I am going to do my due diligence to educate the masses, not only the youth and young adults, but also the parents, the faith-based friends and businesses, everyone. The educating and providing awareness so everyone can be a part, because as we all know, it takes a village, right? Just imagine how powerful the village will be with education and resources, right? And that's my purpose and the reason why I felt becoming a community health worker was a must. So let's get into our last section of this. So the last part that I will finish this off with, because we talked about the issues, we talked about where it stems from, and all of those ways. But the last part that we needed to get into was prevention strategies to reduce vaping, right? Because we can always talk about the problems and what needs to be done, but what are these strategies that we can put into place that will stop it, right? So I'm going to read off or provide you with some very much thought out prevention strategies to reduce vaping among teens and young adults, particularly in low income, underserved communities. First, starting with education and awareness campaign. By implementing a school-based program, schools can play a vital role in prevention by integrating evidence-based education programs that focuses on the dangers of vaping. Programs should provide accurate information on the health risk, including addiction and lung damage, and be tailored to resonate with teens and young adults. That's one thing that we want to do. Not all the verbiage is good for them when we're speaking about this. So finding something to meet them at that half ground, like that middle ground, that we know that that when we speak, they're listening, that's best. So we do have to find something that's tailored and resonates with teens and young adults. The next is community outreach and workshops. Doing my part by organizing community events and workshops led by healthcare professionals, educators, and even former users can help raise awareness. See, by providing culturally sensitive information and real life testimonials, this can be particularly impactful in underserved communities. Next, social media campaigns. We can all do this. Utilize social media platforms popular. The reason why, basically, they're popular among teens, such as platforms like Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube, to spread messages about the dangers of vaping. Engaging influencers who can appeal to youth demographics to promote the anti-vaping message can counteract the glamorization of vaping. Now, as you think a little bit further, what and who is an influencer that you can connect with that actually still appeal to the youth demographic that can also and will also promote the anti-vaping message? Okay, so let's get on with the next one when we talk about regulation and policy enforcement. Like, for example, the restricts sales and marketing. If we strengthen local and state regulations to limit the sale of vaping products, especially in areas near schools or youth centers, implementing age verification requirements, and even restricting online sales can help reduce youth access. Again, I know my daughter was 21, and I'm sure at that age she's accessible to everything. But at the same token, education should be accessible just as easy as that vaping device, right? Now, ban flavoring targets at youth. I just told you about that wild waterberry, watermelon, or whatever these little crazy flavored options that they have that, sounds appealing to the youth to make them want to try it, thinking they're blowing out fruity air or whatever that case is. This needs to be banned. because flavored e-cigarettes are particularly appealing, like I mentioned, to teens. Policies that ban or restrict the sale of flavored vaping products can reduce their appeal. Because, see, in some states have already implemented such bans, and advocating for similar measures in Illinois can help. I am someone that definitely agrees. Then let's talk about increased taxes on vaping products. See, higher taxes on e-cigarettes and vaping products can reduce consumption by making them less affordable for teens. Revenue generated from these taxes could be reinvested into prevention and cessation programs, basically to get them to stop. Let's talk about the access to resources for quitting. I just was talking about that. This starts from establishing youth-focused cessation programs. See, developing these particular programs specifically designed for young people. These programs should provide resources such as counseling, support groups, access to nicotine replacement therapy. Schools, community centers, and local healthcare facilities can serve as venues for these particular programs. Let's promote digital and telehealth resources as well. I noticed as we came out of COVID, a lot of these resources and platforms kind of phased out a little bit. I think we may need those back. So let's talk about utilizing digital platforms, such as apps or online support groups that offer quick coaching, educational materials, and tracking tools. This can be particularly effective for reaching teens who are accustomed to digital engagement. This is the social media era. Let's provide training for healthcare providers, especially those in underserved areas. I got you all up in my Facebook. Like I said, let's talk about provide training for healthcare providers. Train healthcare providers, especially those in underserved areas, to screen for vaping use among adolescents and young adults, and provide the appropriate counseling and resources for quitting right then and there. If we're able to basically have those into place, and where they're able to screen for those type of addictions, because you will believe me, they're noticeable. Just think about you yourself. If you smoke cigarettes and you're going a whole 7 to 8 hours without a puff, right? So that anxiety and all of that is there. Having the healthcare providers trained to see things like this can be beneficial to provide the necessary counseling as well as the resources for quitting. Let's get into parental and community involvement. Again, it takes a village. Now, parental education programs educate parents and guardians about the signs of vaping, the risk associated with it, and how to talk to their children basically about avoiding vaping. Providing resources and support to parents can empower them to have effective conversations with their teens. And that's something that we all want to do. Let's talk about community mobilization. By engaging with local community leaders, organizations, and youth groups in developing and implementing anti-vaping initiatives. I understand how, reaching out to the community, just with my experience, it can seem pretty cliquish. If you're not in that clique, you're ignored. But I know by finding those right individuals, you can definitely get far by providing community-led efforts that can be more culturally relative and effective in reaching diverse populations. Let's talk about peer-to-peer initiatives. By encouraging peer-to-peer education and support networks, teens may be more likely to listen and learn from their peers. I'm sure that although my daughter is 21 Hearing this information from someone 21 through 25 would probably appeal to her a little bit more than hearing someone 50 or older, where it seems like that she's being reprimanded and she's an adult as well, right? So having something like that can definitely assist. And it could be more culturally relevant and effective in reaching those diverse populations. Next, getting into that peer-to-peer initiative, like we were just speaking upon. I already talked about teens being more likely to listen and learn from their peers, of course. Training youth ambassadors to promote anti-vaping messages can help create a supportive vape-free culture among adolescents, right? Let's address social detriments of health by improved access to healthcare and resources, by strengthening community health resources, including clinics and support services, which, if you notice, is real hard for you to actually come across an individual or a clinic that readily accessibly has this information available. But more so, if you have those support services to ensure that all teens and young adults have access to information and services for vaping cessation and overall health and wellness is a great thing. Next, going into promoting healthy alternatives and activities. So providing alternatives to vaping through extracurricular activities, sport programs, and other community engagement opportunities can help keep teens occupied. And we can eliminate that I am bored mentality, right? This way you can help reduce the appeal of vaping. We're almost done here. I know. Next, we're going to move on to address some of the underlying issues. Addressing broader social detriments of health, such as poverty, lack of education, and limited recreational opportunities, is critical. Providing resources to address these issues, such as after-school programs, mentorship opportunities, job training, can reduce these factors that contribute to vaping, right? That's something that we need to think about going towards with the future, because although my 21-year-old may have experienced this, who to say the next 13, 14-year-old won't be the next person that experiences this. And my heart will go out to that parent as well. Okay, let's talk about research and surveillance, right? Because a lot of this stuff are not being monitored. Let's monitor vaping trends and implement surveillance systems to track vaping trends and behavior among the youth. I know that this can help in identifying emerging patterns and areas of concern and guide targeted interventions. Research on effective interventions. Let's invest in research to identify the most effective strategies for preventing and reducing vaping amongst teens and young adults. Now, this can help refine current approaches and develop new evidence-based strategies. To be completely honest, this will be something amazing that those candidates, the ones for the election, Trump as well as Harris, can actually talk about and how they are planning to monitor the trends, provide effective interventions, and do more regarding this, right? So lastly, in conclusion to my communication at this moment, preventing vaping among teens and young adults in low-income and underserved communities in Illinois require a multifaceted approach that includes education regulation, access to resources, community involvement, and addressing social detriments of health. By implementing these strategies, I know we can reduce the prevalence of vaping, protect lung health, and promote healthier lifestyles among our youth. Thank you so much for listening to me. As I mentioned, this video will be posted on my blog at mooncyclemama.com. This would also be on our YouTube page, and I will leave that information in the caption. I will now start adding some of our MMCHW community chats and some of my issue statements to the blog to keep the conversation going, and I will love to do that. Let's connect and network further on how we can take these opportunities to educate the masses. If you're interested in doing that, please feel free to contact me, even if you have to jump into my emails, DMs, all of that. Let's take this and move it a step further, because at the end of the day, it does take a village. Are you ready to participate? All right then, guys. Thank you so much. And yes, my baby is doing much better than before. Thank you.